Is that better? Cool. Good.
Cool.
Adjusted.
Yes, sir.
Set up. Well, I appreciate you coming out, man. I know this is dire times and a whole bunch of for the viewers. I'm sorry. I know you guys probably hear enough of this shit, and not everyone's trying to hear it. But I mean, we got the NBA season suspended.
Yeah.
We got soccer games people are playing with no one in the stands.
The NCAA.
March Madness tournaments. I'm surprised baseball hasn't been canceled or postponed.
I know. I think it's still spring training.
What's your preferred sports, or what do you got?
I would say football and basketball, but baseball as well. I grew up playing all three.
Okay.
So, but I think football takes the cake for me.
Football.
Yeah.
What's your team?
LA Rams.
LA Rams.
So my dad was a Rams fan since the 70s.
Yeah.
And so I was born. Was a Rams fan.
Yeah,
and I'm glad.
You know they're changing the logo. And shit.
They released I guess a hat that had the logo, and the logo looked ugly.
That shit looks garbage. my sister works for the Rams. She works in HR, and I sent her that photo, and I was like, dude, just tell me if she can't tell me shit. She's like, I could lose my job. We can't leak anything. And I was like, okay, well, just tell me if this ugly ass. It looks like the Chargers logo.
Yeah,
it looks like
trash.
a C with the lightning bolt.
Super trash. I don't like it. Hopefully it's not, because they need to go back to the lab with that one.
I don't know. We'll wait. I mean, they're gonna have this whole big ass release and shit, but
hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this is wild, man. It's
super wild, and you and I were, we were just talking about it, and it's just kind of crazy. There's really nothing. You try to find a solution for a lot of things, or just kind of how to think about it, but I'm kind of just dumbfounded.
Right.
I'm shocked. I'm lost for words. And it's a crazy time right now.
You kind of don't know how to react to it. I mean, obviously we've never we had swine flu, we had SARS when it came out,
exactly.
We had influenza, we had everything that's been in our life has come and gone, and this I think is the most extreme.
The most because of how it's spreading, and then you brought up Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom Hanks and his wife have it. Rudy Gobert, who's the center for the Utah Jazz, has it. There's probably way more people that have it. So the thing with coronavirus is you can have it without showing symptoms.
Yes, that's what I saw the like I was telling you earlier. I saw the Joe Rogan podcast, and it had a doctor on there or scientist, and he said that you don't have to show symptoms for you to have the virus.
Yeah.
So that kind of puts that little birdie in your head, what happens if I have it?
Right.
So it's kind of scary.
People are starting to self-quarantine. Yeah, I saw that. It was Michael Osterholm. I think he's the director of the CDC, Center of Disease Control.
Yeah.
So his whole thing was it's kind of, I mean, wearing masks and shit is not going to do anything.
Yeah, he said it's not going to
do anything. Verbatim for him was, it's like trying to dodge the wind or trying to run away from the wind because it's in the air. Fuck, we're fucked, bro. This might be the last podcast we got, my boy. Well, well, fuck all that. We got enough shit we got to deal with.
For real. Exactly.
What's up with you, man? You just turned 30. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Happy belated.
When
did you start getting into? You went to audio. You studied audio engineering at Pinnacle.
So I went to Pinnacle College is a trade school for audio engineering. I went there 2009.
Okay.
2009 is kind of where I started wanting to DJ, wanting to get into music. But with the whole music thing, I knew I wanted to be in music from a young age. Both of my
house music or just music.
Music.
I
grew up with house music. So I'm second generation Mexican American. So my mother was born here. My dad was born in Mexico, but he came when he was 2. So they grew up in LA. They grew up in Paramount, which is a small city right next to Long Beach. But they grew up in the scene. My mom used to go to underground raves from back then. She used to go to Avalon, which was called the Palace back then.
Kidding.
Yeah, my dad was a really big pop locker.
Sick.
He was almost in the Breakin' movie.
No kidding.
But my grandfather didn't let him go because he was barely 15 at the time.
Right.
So I grew up with it, and for me and my family, I identify more with Chicano, which is an old saying of more Mexican American, a little bit more Americanized. And growing up with the lowriders, my uncles, listening to oldies, funk music, and just dance music. And when it comes to Spanish music, I really love cumbias and merengue. So with house music and then hip hop, I'm big into hip hop.
Yeah.
So it kind of just all intertwines together. And but I grew up playing a lot of sports like travel ball, baseball. I went to the World Series when I was 12 years old in Kansas.
No shit.
Yeah.
What? Dude, that's rad.
Yeah.
What position?
So I played third and I pitched. So
Sick.
I remember, man, I pitched against the Missouri team from Missouri.
What was that
beat 'em.
experience like?
And it's great that you asked me that because I kind of wanted to talk about it. It was just amazing because at a young age like that, I was put in these situations where, you know, it's a lot of pressure. It takes a lot out of you. So it really helped me identify who I was at a young age.
Very young.
And as I got older, you know, and you make mistakes, you go through hardships and stuff, and it really helped me overcome those because at a young age, I was already kind of learning how to be strong-minded and how to overcome a lot of adversity, even with football. I started 3 years varsity linebacker at Long Beach Jordan, so Division I, played against Poly, Lakewood.
No
So that as well, you know, as a high school kid and I, you know, going through the drills and the summer and Hell Week and I really learned a lot about myself during those times. And those are a lot of moments that I've always kind of referred to. Yeah. And this, you know, when in my life now, and I just kind of referred, you know, how I was raised and like, man, you know, I'm ready to do this. And it, hand in hand with the music and shows. And
yeah, that's crazy. Dude, I mean, you played in the World Series.
Yeah.
So it's a Little League World Series?
No, so I played hardball.
Okay.
Pony. So Little League, you're not able to lead off at 12 years old. They play in like a smaller field. So with me, from a young age, I was already playing in like, I guess you could say big league. Big leagues, kind of like from home base to first base type of thing. The pitching mound at home. So it was like I didn't know the league. Yeah,
there's a middle league. So there's like Little League. There's
different leagues. Yeah,
the MLB. Let's say the pro baseball, and then there's somewhere in the middle where it's like they still got a World Series.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different leagues, a bunch of different
that's tight.
Organizations, rules, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
How did you get into that? Like, were you good at baseball in like your local school, and then someone scouted you, or like your family was like, "Hey, let's get you involved in this"? Or
so I actually did play 1 year of Little League when I lived, because you know I grew up in Long Beach, North Long Beach. So my dad put me in one of the parks. I didn't even know it was Little League until the first game. I started leading off. I swear. And they were like, you can't do that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So I made the All-Star team. We went into a tournament. I was pitching. So there was this team called the East LA A's. They were a travel ball team. They saw me pitch, and they talked to my family. They talked to me. They were like, hey, we want to take you to Kansas with us for the World Series. So I only knew this team for 2 weeks. I went by myself.
Dude, that's wild.
You know, it was pretty cool because like my parents were like, man, we don't have the money to send you. But my grandfather, being who he is, you know, he was like, hey, here's the money, go. This is the opportunity that you can't miss. Yeah. And it was amazing.
Nowadays, that ain't gonna fly. Your parents are like, your ass ain't going nowhere. You're not traveling. You're gonna stay your ass and play in fucking Pasadena or Long Beach.
For real.
What was it like growing up in Long Beach? I mean, so right now you don't live in LA. You live in
Cerritos.
Okay. And
which is 10 minutes from Long Beach.
Okay, so that's relatively close to the same area. Mm-hmm. You've seen what it's like out here in LA. You've seen what it's like in Long Beach. What was it like growing up there? Just to start like growing up and being around, influences and being Latino in that area.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome because, with everything happening going on right now with race and stuff like that, we didn't see that. I didn't see that growing up. My father always taught me, which I hold to this day, is just respect. Have people respect you, or have kids respect you, and you respect them. If they disrespect you, then you know how to handle it, type of thing. Yeah. But it was awesome. It was a bunch of different cultures. Long Beach is a bunch of different cultures. Just hanging, Cambodian, all sorts, all races of Asians, Samoans, Tongans, African Americans.
Tongans?
Tongans.
What's Tongan?
wow, this
Sorry,
is
yeah,
awesome.
that
No,
sounds like I
this is
never
cool.
heard of that. Tonguin.
So there's Samoans, right? And then there's another island called Tonga.
Tonga.
So it's a whole different race, but they're they're
But
from
it's
the
like
same
the same
ancestry.
islands-ish.
Yeah, ish.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different.
Tongan.
They're darker. They're they're both big.
Sure.
Both, they're both
Yeah, I can
huge.
see it,
But
yeah. Islanders usually.
yeah, and it was so cool because I grew up with a very tight knit family, so it was awesome. I stood over their house, my teammates' house. Didn't matter if they're Mexican or whatnot.
Yeah.
And they stood over our house, and it was awesome growing up in that team environment, which helps me and it goes into play in what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So.
The upbringing in Long Beach and having like an eclectic school or going to being around kids that aren't. I feel like not a lot of communities have that. Not a lot of even you go to fucking let's say Orange County.
Yeah.
You're growing up with a specific group of people.
Exactly.
That whatever you grew up there,
Yeah.
it's cool, but you have the advantage of being around everyone. So when you're at a young age, you're growing up without having the biases, without having racial profiling and stuff, because you're a minority, they're a minority. Everybody's kind of like, all right, cool, we're in this shit together.
Exactly. And it was the Caucasian, excuse my language.
Yeah, no,
the white people were actually the minorities.
Yeah.
So it was
okay.
They were the ones that you had some that did grow up in the hood and they were they spoke with a little bit more slang, but then you had the other ones that were into like the video games and doing weird stuff. So it was kind of weird to see them
as opposed to the other.
Yeah,
one.
right.
What a trip.
Yeah, it was. And then it was really cool because that's when when I got into middle school, it was 2002, right? So that's when I remember, man, like Bow Wow was coming out, Little Romeo, and then because it was cool because all that culture, all the music, like I've always really been big into music. Me and my dad used to make mixtapes, the cassette tapes from the radio. MTV Jams will record the videos. So I was just really in tune with the culture of music, and it was awesome, And then when I got into ninth grade, that's when the whole crumping movement started, and it was just like it's a vibe in there. And what I tell about people when they come from different states or countries, they just think of LA as out here, right? LA, Hollywood. But as you get here and start, the West Side, Crenshaw and Culver City, Inglewood, they have their own vibe.
Right.
Long Beach, we have like 2 or 3 cities in Long Beach.
Long Beach, yeah. I feel
so it has its own vibe. Then you have Orange County, and then the IE, and then out here in the Valley.
Right.
So it's kind of cool because now once I started coming out here in LA and going to the clubs and start DJing, I felt proud because I wasn't like anybody else, and I didn't ever want it to be. One thing with me, I never went. I'm pretty sure people that went through like a rock stage, Hollister.
I did, not Hollister. I went, dude. It was so fucking ridiculous. One summer, I was wearing all black, with the fucking bracelets and the studded belt. The next summer, I was wearing FUBU and Sean John and shit. Oh, dude, trust me. And then band tees, and then I started skateboarding, and that kind of saved me because I was like, all right, this is my shit for now. But yeah, so you were saying you kind of had it from a young age.
Yeah,
kind of I
knew what style I loved, And then good thing you brought up skateboarding. I always loved the skateboarding, like swag
community.
gear.
Oh, okay, the gear. Okay.
Even in the community, all my friends skateboarded. I just didn't want to skateboard because I was playing high level sports.
Right. That's fair.
And I knew that I would break an ankle or bust my shit up. You feel me? But so yeah, man, it was cool. Like, and I talk to my friends now that it just feels good to me because now with kind of to put this in there, like with the whole mental health thing and people having a hard time finding themselves, and and I never really understood that until I got older, and then you really start, you go through tests, but it made me feel good because it makes me, feel really good about myself that I know who I am.
Right, and you've known who you are. I mean, again, when you grow up in a multicultural community, when you grow up with supporting family, when you grow up mental health has so many different, avenues of where it affects people. But yeah, people kind of not knowing who they are and they try to do stuff, just to kind of see if this is who they are.
And which I'm not saying anything towards that, but it's just more of it just feels good for me to know, like, okay, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I want to do. And I'm succeeded in it. So.
That's good, man. I'm glad to hear. What were some of the like? What are some artists that kind of paved the way for you? Because I mean, obviously, when you listen to cumbia and merengue, and you listen to hip hop, and you listen to house music, like, what was it that kind of started to kind of build the DJ Julian Anthony?
Well, like I said, from a young age, listening to Art LeBeau on Sundays. When it came to hip hop, my aunt in 5th grade she used to have 212s in the trunk. Shout out to my aunt Joanna. She literally was bumping the Chronic album when I was like 9 years old. So it's Tupac's my favorite rapper. He's number one for me. Then it's Biggie. When it comes, I was listening to freestyle music. I love freestyle music. Debbie Deb. So in cumbias is Señora Donamita, and just kind of like artists like that. And then remember when the I'm Blue came out?
Hell
and,
yeah.
And I was a really big fan of Daft Punk at 7 years old.
Right,
so Around the World was my favorite song of all time. Show Me Love is my all-time favorite. So I actually grew up with all that. Like I knew what house music was. I knew what dance music was, freestyle, funk, hip hop. So I would say just like a collective of that, being from the area, it was so cool because when I listened to Snoop, those streets that he named, I actually drove down there. Yeah. I was in those areas, so that holds a big place for me. And where I grew up over the bridge is Compton. So when I would listen to Eazy-E or Ice Cube or Dre, like those streets, I grew up, I played in those parks around, right? So it's just a collective of that that really molded me. And as a family, we actually had a lot of parties. My grandma would throw like the sickest New Year's Eve parties. And I would get so excited that the DJ was coming. And with me, if the people out there that do know me, they know I love to dance. I love to dance.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
You've seen me bust a couple moves.
Yeah.
So from a young age, I was just never, because like my dad was
never
really
uncomfortable.
Good. Yeah, my dad was a good dancer, and my mom, and I was just never uncomfortable to be in front of people.
Okay.
Or to perform, actually there was a video, I sang the whole Lion King was my favorite movie, so I sang the whole soundtrack in front of my family.
You said there's a video?
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
You gotta post it. You gotta get that shit. You can't say there's a whole video of you
Dude, there's
singing.
literally, I remember, and no BS, and just not being shy.
Right.
I was never shy, and there's a video of me singing the Lion King.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. So all that, all that kind of molded me. But I knew I wanted to be in music from a young age.
And then you sat behind some CDJs, or you saw, I think you get old enough and you kind of start going to parties and you start seeing the DJ, and that kind of picked up like, hey, I want to kind of learn the equipment specifically, or do you kind of have an idea of the sound? And
so like growing up, like DJ, there was this crew called Quad City DJs. I was just always watching videos and like a Tribe Called Quest, and on Incubus.
Damn, that's
Drive. Yeah.
Wait, Tribe Called Quest, and then you got Incubus. Yeah.
So I remember Incubus in the Drive video, the guy had the turntables,
right? And
that's when he was scratching. So I already knew what the equipment was, and then once it got to like the more of like the late 2000, like 8, 9, that's when I started seeing CDJs come out. And then I was like, oh snap. So my first gear, bought it off Craigslist for $300, was the Denon 2600Fs. And for all the guys that know the equipment, they know. So it was CDJs. So it's a big box, so like you put your CDs in, and then there's a MIDI board that has the little jog wheel. It had no BPMs. So then I really started practicing. So I was literally in my room for like a year and a half, like just looking at my wall, practicing, watching videos,
working on that equipment. Do you think the difference between how advanced the equipment is now for people that are starting to come up compared to like you having to really like learn the artistry of creating music and DJing and all that shit is completely different?
Totally different.
Do you think it's easier now than it was? I would personally, I would probably say so.
No,
yeah.
And at that time there was this battle of, oh, you're not a real DJ because you DJ off Serato. That's when like the laptops started coming out more, and with the laptops is like, yeah, you could literally see the waveform, which you can see now on the CDJs, but then it was a little bit more easier. So people are like, oh,
you're not doing it raw.
Yeah. And I took pride in that. And I'm like, no, I want to learn off CDJs. You know, I'm not, you know, I want to be a DJ. I never told myself I want to be a house DJ. You know, so that's why.
Okay. So there was never specification like I want to do house music. You just want to DJ.
Yes.
Whatever it came with, whatever sound and music, whatever parties you were able to book at. Interesting. I haven't met too many people that were just like into the DJing craft. Obviously, we're in like the house music scene, so most people are like coming up on house music, or they kind of converge into house music. So that's super interesting. So when you started, were you playing just all around? There was no specific sound, like how people are like set in genres now.
Yeah, like it was more. Like hip hop, and like I heard like it was like remixes. So when I was in high school, it was like the party crew days. So like from 2002 or 2001 to 2008, 2009. So it was more like remixes and like hip hop stuff.
Get
top
the party
40
going.
Yeah. And then I actually threw my first couple parties in North Long Beach. I actually got booed at both of them.
No way.
Because they're like fuck techno.
Oh, so
and it was majority. Jeez. Yeah, it was like in the hood. But I was like, I don't care, man. Like, and that's what I got the love for, because I want to create. I always wanted to create my own party,
right? And
create a vibe. And but yeah, man. But I didn't take an offense to it. It wasn't towards me. It was just because they didn't understand the music.
Yeah.
And then I put the homie on. He was DJing hip hop, but I stuck to it. And yeah, just was. But I knew I wanted to be a DJ, so I would DJ. Man, there was this one time I DJ for this one party, and the dad paid me $20 to play the same Mexican song, corrido, over and over. Okay. But
what kind of fucking party is that? Just the same goddamn song?
It was like drunk. It was like towards the end.
$20. Here you go.
But what I used it for was like those things. I and like big parties, and we used to do our own parties. I used to crack. But I took that as practice, as like reading the crowd and seeing like, oh, this song goes with this one. And then when you drop it, you see the reaction of the people and you feel that energy. And so I wanted to be able to cater to any crowd. And then what's proud, because a lot of the times that people see me, they're my friends, or like they come out and see me and support. They're like, man, I don't really like house music, but the way you play it, I can enjoy it.
Right.
And that is something I've always been working on. I've always worked on, is that I'm going to make you like my set, even if this is not something that you hear regularly.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
because
saying?
you're able to kind of show your personality through the playing, through the song selection.
Exactly.
Do you think that's a lost art where people are not so, like, reading the crowd isn't as easy as you would think most DJs would have
I honestly think it is. And then when it comes to social media, I really don't voice my opinion like that about that, because I just don't want to go back and forth,
Yeah.
But I really feel it's lost. I really feel it's lost that, okay, at an opening set, you got to play these certain type of songs, but also make that set dope. Like bring some sort of energy,
right.
Even if you're playing at 9 o'clock,
right.
Till 11 or whatnot. And I think it is lost. I think a lot of people don't understand how to, they just I put these 20 songs in a row and I'm going to play them back to back.
Yeah.
But no, like when I'm up there, man,
banger.
it's like, oh, I remember, it's like I'm thinking as like a freestyle as well.
Yeah.
So I really think it's lost. And, that's why we're here.
Right.
To voice that and to, tell people, and to tell other people too that it's not lost to certain people. It's lost, but then there's people out there that
do care about the essence of the party. Yeah, I can respect that, man. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'll go on record saying, like, I don't think everyone should DJ, but everyone is able to. Everyone's allowed to. For those of you on the YouTube clip, holla at your boy. But yeah, I mean, again, if you just do it your way, I think that's what ultimately kind of makes you as far as a DJ and as far as an artist. Because once you start kind of doing shit for other people, the sound is lost like immediately. It goes from you sounding like who you are as a DJ, and everyone's like, oh, okay, I know this is the homie banging, and then you start playing some other stuff to kind of just get the crowd hyped, and it throws everybody off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and actually, I would not. I went through that kind of like I started feeling a way because I used to play a little bit more like big room house. That's when it was that time
era.
where like acts were like 2010, 2011,
yep,
you know, the big room
yep.
and Hardwell coming out with some dope stuff.
Afrojack.
Yeah, Afrojack was
laid
banging.
back
So I would play that stuff, but then it got to the point where I just didn't feel it anymore. Like I didn't feel the music. I didn't feel like, man, like I can't feel it. And I'm looking at the people and it's just like, man, they're hearing this all the time.
Right.
But with me, I've always played house, like some sort of like tech house in my sets with the big room. So I would mix them together. You know, I would drop some like night crawlers I would mash them up with like a Chucky track or something,
sure.
like to still put that in there.
I haven't heard those names in a while.
Yeah. And then, so slowly, you know, just connecting with people like, you know, big shout out to Sean Cruda. When I linked up with him, he showed me like other music, like minimal tech, which is what we call like minimal tech, which I'm really into now. But with just like this groove and like rawness, you know. And then when I linked up with my boys, Patria Underground, you know, shout out to my boy Ramos, like they and the crew, they showed me like disco-y but still tech and funky and hard, because my sound, I always want to keep it energized and hard, you know. That's just me and my personality. So I can't play soft because I won't feel it. But then I transitioned and then I started really searching. There was 1 year I took a whole year off. Because, you know, what a lot of people don't understand is as an artist, you know, you're an artist, but you still have a day job and responsibilities, right? So I had to like regroup myself and then with music and everything. And then I came back even stronger. So
you went from learning the equipment. At what point did you kind of integrate yourself? Because this was all back east, I guess, south, east. I don't know where the fuck you're at. Wherever you were growing up playing.
Oh yeah,
south.
So
you grew up south, and Sean Cruda and all those homies, and they were up here.
Though Sean Cruda grew up in South Bay, so Inglewood,
Okay.
South Bay. Eddie grew up in South Bay, so
Portillo.
Portillo. We're the only ones from down that area.
Okay, so you got integrated with them first out there, as far as like getting involved in.
No.
So how did that happen?
Oh, okay.
What was like because I wanted to go from like the transition of you kind of learning that equipment. And then stuff kind of got a little bit advanced. You were starting to be like, okay, I get my shit. I get what I'm doing. This equipment's getting better. You know, I want to get into like DJing now.
Okay.
I want to get into like DJing. Let's say house, tech house, techno, whatever genre it was.
So, like I said, I started throwing my own parties. I would like take over. I hosted like a little residency in it's called Shoreline Village. It's in downtown Long Beach, at the Pine. So, and then I always wanted to create a crew. So I actually did in 2000, and along with a couple other people that were my friends at the time, we created Sound Mafia.
That's right.
So I created Sound Mafia, and I wanted to be, it was like a crew. Like there's like 4 DJs, you know, and then so I was able to play at Love Groove. Victorville, I played at 420 Fest.
Victorville, they got shows in Victorville?
They used to. They used to throw raves back then. And Victorville Fairgrounds.
Oh, okay.
With the hangers and everything. So I started like doing my own thing, and that's when the whole pay to play started.
Okay.
People started throwing these one-off nights and Avalon college nights, and people were selling tickets, and
I remember those.
You know, you have to sell bottles. So I was mad in the beginning. Like, how are you going to expect me to sell tickets if you haven't gave me a shot yet? You know, you haven't let me play a couple shows, meet people and stuff like that, right? So I was getting upset. But then I come to realization, like, man, well, I can't keep bitching and moaning about it.
You just gotta start.
So I got to play the game. So I started playing the game, and once I really started gaining traction was in the OC. So I would open up the main stage, sometimes direct support at 10 nightclubs, Sutra, Heat Ultra Lounge in Anaheim. And then I would be able to host a patio. But at that time I was making some good money on my day job that I would literally buy like 7 bottles. Like people would pitch in. So every week I was spending about $2,000.
Good Lord.
But the way I looked at it, I know it's a lot of money. I'm looking at it.
Especially at that age when you're coming up on everything.
Dude.
Yeah.
But the way I looked at it was like, I'm investing in myself,
Right.
and this is what I need to do to get my name out there. So my name started buzzing. I met Eddie. Eddie put me on his wing. You know, I looked at him, you know, he's like my big bro. He's my role model. And he put me on his wing. And then the Martinez brothers played like an exclusive show at a clothing store in downtown L.A.
When they were way younger.
Way a little bit younger. Yeah. And then I was waiting for the porta potty, and then freaking this 6'5" dude walks up to me. He's like, "Are you Julian? You're Julian Anthony?" And I felt like a rock star. I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm like nobody.
Yeah.
And I look up and it's Sean.
Oh, okay.
And man, we instantly connected. And then I invited him to one of the shows I was playing at Avalon at Main Stage, was pretty cool. And then I invited Eddie, and then that's when I introduced them.
Got it.
And that's when we started. And then, you know, we were doing our own thing. And then back in 2000, now it's in 2015, I think late 2015, Eddie came to me and was like, "Hey, I have this Madhouse thing. I was doing this podcast. Excuse me. I want to make a crew." Kind of like, you know, what you did with Sound Mafia. You know what I did with that. I want to make a crew and make a collective. And I'm like, I'm down. And I was the first artist on my house. And then, you know, I told him about Sean. It took a while for Sean to get put on, because Sean is a pure artist. He's been a musician since he was young. So it took for him a while. But then, you know, I saw Diego and you know, Zeledon and my boy Mario play. And I'm like, man, we got to get these guys on. And then Jay Torres. And then we just started doing it on the shows. And then Eddie, he's a businessman. Right. So he's just started linking everything up, our shows. And then we threw How I Met Michael, we threw our first underground like together with no headliners. And we sold out.
Yeah, it's weird how that works in LA. I feel like because there's so many people that come through here, you don't necessarily need like a massive headliner to be able to throw out a show. I mean, you have a good group of dudes. You have people who love to play. You love people that'll promote the fuck out of it. You know, that's the big thing, is being able to put yourselves out there and spread the word, and being so down and being so down with, you know, what you guys are doing and the crew, that it's going to kind of promote itself. I mean, our last warehouse party, we had a special guest. We couldn't announce it until the day before the party. So people showed up for local,
for you
homies.
guys.
Yeah, for us, for the Understated crew. Shout out to them that hosted with us, Ray Cash and Temple and Juliet Mendoza. It was all like us and everyone promoting it together. So it shows that, you know, you don't need $50,000 to book the sickest headliner to be able to have a sold out show.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that experience of you guys doing it on your own was probably, especially doing your first after hours compared to doing like before you were doing like bars and like regular gigs,
bars and
smaller stuff,
clubs and stuff like that. So that was really very exciting for me, because, you know, me and Sean always joke about this, but the underground is like my home, like the after hours. Like, I love it, you know, just that vibe and the people and what goes on, and the music you hear in there, the sound, you know. So it was really dope. And it was at the Revolt. I don't know if you remember before it got shut down. And it was at the Revolt.
Classic
and
place.
It was awesome.
Spot. Yeah,
it was
I like
super
that spot.
awesome. Yeah, so that's how everything kind of started, and we just started building together, and you know.
Now you guys are still rocking and still doing the stuff.
Still rocking it.
And then, so what's tell me about Let's Groove and Sound a House.
So Let's Groove was a label that I actually released a track on. I collabed with someone. I think it was like about 2.
So you're producing
3
too?
years. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I went to the audio engineering school, at that time, I was barely learning how to DJ. So that really helped me understand sound and frequencies and levels and, you know, MIDIs and analog and all that stuff like that, plugins. And then, so I knew I always wanted to make music. So I would dib and dab in it. And then I had, you know, the homie Cesar G. He invited me over to his house, and we made a track, and it's a small label from Italy. We released it, and it was pretty cool. So, you know, that's... So
you fucking with Italy? Damn, bro, that's ballsy.
You know, those fools are staying
they
inside
ain't releasing
right now.
shit but sound right now is what they're releasing. Sorry to anybody out there. It's probably nobody has internet access or anything out there.
I know, they released that thing. So that was actually a pretty cool moment. And then the Sounds of House is something that I created. Like with me, you know, I'm thinking of the future, you know, thinking of a brand, you know, I want ownership, you know, I want,
something that you started that it's represented.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel
so then Eddie, basically kind of, he was like, hell yeah, like do that. Because, some people, they have egos and they're like, nah,
you're with us and
you're with
us.
us.
Yeah, I don't want you to have to. Yeah, no, I feel that, man.
And he never did that, and that's why it's pretty cool. And so
good on you, man. If you're listening, good on you for that. I respect that.
For sure, man. He's awesome. And then, so I started that, and then I was doing like my own podcast. I would talk on it, and then release the mix. I had a couple of special guests. Even the homie, shout out Lars V from Rotterdam, Amsterdam. He was on there. He actually had some pretty big like releases that Sonny James or Ron Marciano was playing, and it was cool. I started that, and then I knew I was like, okay, I want to start throwing like my own parties. Yeah. And then so 2 years ago, Eddie gave me one of the nights, Pattern Bar, and then it made it Sounds of House, and
the rest is history.
Been pretty cool. So it's still a baby right now, but
you gotta start somewhere.
It's something that I'm looking forward to building. So
hell yeah, man. Tell me, you were talking about doing like mini tours in the DJ circuit.
Yeah.
Do you mean something like more local? Like now that you have, let's say you're rocking with the Madhouse guys, you got Sound of House, you're working with Let's Groove, you have your own music. Where does the mini tour come in to like all that?
So it was kind of funny because me and Sean were in the studio last week, and I kind of said, I was like, honestly, bro, like we're kind of big artists in our own city, like I have the show in Pomona. I have to drive an hour there. Show in LA, it's like about 40 minutes. And then, I had a show in Alhambra. That's still 30 minutes from Alhambra. So it was more of a like, people need to understand, don't take it for granted that, it's the DJ circuit. I'm touring the circuit of LA. We have to drive out there, so it was more like a funny thing, but now kind of like talking about it, it's something that I'm like, I hold myself to a higher standard to it, in a sense of humbly speaking, like, man, we're playing like
gigs around Southern California,
good spots, you know what I'm saying? And so it was kind of more like a little joke, but that's what I mean. Like, I just think people should appreciate what they're doing. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm not as big as this guy. Like, so with me, a thing that I told myself and made this decision a few years ago, was I have my own race, everybody has their own race in life. And
like I thought you were like, I was like, you're Mexican. What do you mean? All right. You're a part of your own race. All right. I got
like
you.
my own race,
I got you.
sprinting, marathon.
Yeah, there it is.
And because I used to always like, and I think it is kind of instilled in us in American culture of, oh, look at what that person has. Yep. I don't have that, so I'm not as good as him.
Yeah.
And I made this decision. I was just like, bro, like that doesn't make, I have my own path, my own avenue, and I'm the king of my realm, of my, my whatever, your my
sound,
country,
your trip,
exactly. So I started kind of like thinking like that. And really holding myself, more professionally. Eddie taught me a lot about that. Like, people are always watching you. People talk.
Oh, yeah, people talk. People talk.
People
For
talk.
Sure.
People talk, and perception is reality. And so I started just kind of thinking myself. And, me, I'm a very happy-go-lucky guy. And Sean actually brought up a good point. We had a meeting the other week. And not to let people too close.
Personally,
to get in. I'm very easy to trust people, but he actually made a good point because of what we're doing now. You know what I'm saying? Nobody gave me a shot. Nobody gave me a handout. So just kind of like, with the whole tour thing, I know we're going a little bit off, but more holding myself to a higher standard because I put in the work. I'm 10 years in the game.
Yeah.
I did my own stuff. I build my own crew. I'm working with one of the biggest crews in LA. We're doing big stuff. We're hosting our own parties 3 years in a row in Miami for Miami Music Week.
Nice. Is that still happening?
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Good thing I'm not going and playing. Yeah. So I would have probably called off.
Called off. I'm not going anywhere.
Nah,
for a while.
yeah,
I'm
dude.
probably
It's pretty crazy. So yeah.
Well, that's good, man. Again, you understanding yourself when you were young and you kind of being confident and aware has made it easy for you now that you're involved in music and you're involved in a collective and you represent yourself as like an artist now and you're producing and you're going to set yourself. I mean, that mini tour thing, I feel you for real, because a lot of people see a DJ there and they're like, oh, cool, he's here. But they don't know, like, you know, next night or same night you're driving 60, 70 miles down to do the same thing and play a gig and not get paid as much as you deserve to get paid. So I mean, the grind. I'm not a DJ, so I don't get it. Like I don't see that, you know, firsthand. But you know, having you know friends in the scene and stuff like that, it's not enough credit is given, and I think a lot of people kind of sell themselves short because you might not be Afrojack playing at fucking EDC main stage type of stuff, but if you're you know rocking with a good collective, if you're getting yourself gigs and you're getting paid and you're putting your own music and yourself out there and you're marketing yourself, what more can you do?
Exactly.
What more can you do?
And they all started where we started too.
Yeah. They just know people and they got friends and connects. Like we got friends and friends, but it's like a different, you know, you just got to know the people. Someone one day is going to like meet Claude Von Stroke and they're going to add them to that label. And then that's just, you know, that's however you want to rock it. We know couple of those people. Yeah.
And then, you know, I can't really say it now because it's still under wraps, but that's already happened with us. We you know, the people that we've booked, you know, De La Swing, Zepzito, Placencia, you know, Rafa Barrios, like we're cool with those guys. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We know their managers. You know, Eddie knows their managers. So it feels good for me now, like producing music. You know, me and Sean, we already have 2 tracks made. Nice. We have the 3rd one. We just need to arrange it, and then we're already starting on the 4th one. But like, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to build a structure and know people. Now I know where I could release or send my music to. Right. Not just sending it out and hoping that somebody likes it. You know, so it feels good to say like that as actually happening, because of the time we put in. Yeah.
It's a learning curve. I mean, I mean, for me coming into this, you know, let's say this is our fifth year in the game or whatever. Seeing Stefan and Michael, where early on they were kind of their music was all over the place, and then you kind of start meeting the right people. We start booking the right collectives, and they're part of record labels. So now you can concentrate your effort. Like you can put the music that you want with the label that you think will represent it well, not just like, oh, here's my shit. Exactly. Someone's going to put it out. Fuck, nobody did, and then you get bummed out.
Exactly. And then it's also, too, of understanding your image and what image you want to put out there. So, like, with me, I'm not really too hyped about, like, release or getting my music released on the label now. You know, we're on the internet stage. I have my own, exactly. I'm very artistic. You know, I grew up very artistic and coloring and colors and visuals, and I can do that myself. Yeah. Like they're not doing anything that I believe that I can do. And you don't really get paid off your releases. We're not Drake.
It's exposure. I'm
not going to release a full-blown album mixtape. Like
you get billions of streams.
Exactly. So I'm looking at getting paid. I want to get out-of-state bookings, out-of-country bookings. That's where you start getting paid. Right. So that's just kind of like my little like my idea and my blueprint that I have for myself.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, what's so you've gotten your roadmap. I mean, it's literally knowing yourself from when you're a kid to where you are now. So what's the goal with, let's say, just Julian Anthony for the next like 2 to 5 years? Because the scene is going to change again.
Yeah, for sure. My thing is in the next 2 to 5 years, is no doubt I'm gonna be traveling. Yeah. It's gonna be released on big labels. Yeah, after the whole
shit
the
coronavirus. You know, their sales actually
dude, that's stupid. I was drinking Corona the other day, bro. I was like, what the hell?
It's the name. People are dumb, and people hear that shit coronavirus. Yeah, their sales dropped like a motherfucker.
Dirty, bro.
I'm not surprised, but anyway, sorry. Good. Back to you. Sorry,
I drink Hennessy, so
no shit. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers pulling up with Hennessy.
But so next, you know, full, you know, traveling artist, traveling around the world, hosting our own parties, madhouse parties, in other countries. It's the shit that Eddie has already told me. Hell yeah, it's unbelievable. Like the other, Sean was like, he was lost for words because of the people that are talking to them, the people that are telling them, we want you to host our label's party in LA. And this label is pretty huge.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you got to start somewhere. I mean, you start booking, one DJ that comes from out of town, or a DJ that knows that record label, and you show them a good time. You take care of them like their family. You're not just like, oh, you're playing, here's your money. Cool, thanks for DJing. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Zebzito was like, bro, this was one of the best when he played it for us in December. It was awesome. Like, I went on after him to close it. We still had about 500, 600 people
I remember that
there.
Show. I remember that
Crazy. So he was like, man, this was one of the best parties I had in the States in a long time. And he started just telling all his peoples.
Oh, yeah.
And so people already know us out there. They've already hit up Eddie, like, hey, we've heard about you. We've seen.
Dope. Dope.
So that's where I see myself in the next 2 weeks. Just full blown already. And then more, I would say, greater or like bigger goal, just become successful in music. I don't want to be famous or rich, but I just want to take care of my family, want to open up, art schools in Long Beach. And that's kind of like my major goal.
That.
Just give back to community, but also take care of my family, but also be a footprint in music.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it takes time. It takes time, man.
Yeah, it takes time.
This isn't an industry where you're going to come in a couple of years. I mean, it is like for some people, if you happen to be that golden child and, fucking lightning hits you and you just shine, like whatever the fuck. But
and that's the thing.
Takes
like,
time.
A lot of people are like, oh, well, this guy did it in 2 years. So everybody it's different.
Yeah, it's a timeline is different.
But I love it because I am learning, and I've learned the ins and outs a lot about the business. I've been fucked over, a lot of stuff, but it gives me my resume. It gives me my sense of just knowledge in this game, and it feels good.
Man. I respect that, man. I love the attitude. I think that's only going to do good things for you. I don't think with an attitude like that it's, you're not going to get what you want. Why wouldn't you? If you keep working on your shit, you work with the right people. I do agree with what Sean was saying, like, maybe limit the amount of people you let in to get to the test. I mean, you want to be you want to be nice to everyone.
Exactly.
You want to show everybody mutual respect. You are going to be you as a person, but as far as when people start to get in with you, that's when it's like,
because you never know.
Yeah, man. I mean, in this industry, like even for us, like there are some like approaches that we get, and I'm just like, no. Like I respect it, and it's cool, and we'll go together and we'll party, and you can come to our show, we'll go to your show, we'll support however we can. But when it starts to get too close, that's when you got to be able to like weed out the the suckers or whatever.
Exactly.
At our age, we're not suck ass. I almost dropped the word I can't be saying on there. Anyway, all right. Is there anything we missed? Anything else you want to touch on? Any shout outs?
Not just once again, shout out to you. Thank you so much. 100 Block, the block is hot podcast. Now I just want to give a quick story. So 900 Block, I already knew Michael Pham, and then I see him rolling with his new crew, and I was just like, what the hell? And then I seen fucking Stefan's pictures. I'm like, dude, this dude's like drippy as hell, fucking taking pictures with like the old school whip in the streets. And then I was like, man, these guys are my style. So then I pulled up to I've pulled up to a couple of your parties by myself. So the first one I pulled up by myself, and I was so blown away. Like, the music that they dropped, that you guys create, and I was like, man, it just influenced me. So big shout out to you guys for doing what you guys are doing. It's so awesome right now, and the scene is so amazing that techno, tech house, disco house is all getting kind of like their fair share of shine. Shout out to my mom. I love you. Yeah, Mom. My brothers. Mom's the best. Mom's the best. Shout out to Madhouse. All you guys. Guys, I love you guys. Sounds of House crew. And just for me, don't get offended. Thank God. Always keep God number one.
I was gonna get offended.
That's me. That's me. Just always keep faith, and just to kind of tell the people out there, maybe the people that are aspiring to do anything. Just like believe in yourself. No, don't. It doesn't matter what this person says about you, if you or puts you down. Even family sometimes don't believe in you. But one thing I could say is just believe in yourself, believe in your vision, and do everything the right way. Be a good person. Karma is real. Just have morals and respect for what you do and to other people, and things will go good.
Fuck yeah, man. I love that attitude. I love you, man. You're my brother in the scene. I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming out, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Peace.